If there's a red flag to look out for, fellas, feared around the world should probably be up there. I'm your host Yusuf, and these are 10 of the most feared women around the world. Make sure to subscribe and ring that bell to get notified whenever we upload a new video. Anyways, let's check it out. Number 10, Anna Chapman. Chapman is one of only 2 of the illegals program Russians arrested in June 2010 who did not use an assumed name. Officials claimed Chapman worked with a network of others until an undercover FBI agent attempted to draw her into a trap at a Manhattan coffee shop. The FBI agent offered Chapman a fake passport with instructions to forward it to another spy. He asked, "Are you ready for this step?" To which Chapman replied, "Of course." She accepted the passport, but after making a series of phone calls to her father, Vasily Kuschenko in Moscow, Chapman took his advice and handed the passport in at a local police station. She was arrested shortly after. After being formally charged, Chapman and 9 other detainees became part of a spy swap deal between the United States and Russia, the biggest of its kind since 1986. The 10 Russian agents returned to Russia via a chartered jet that landed at Vienna International Airport in Austria, where the swap occurred on the morning of the 8th of July 2010. The Russian jet returned to Moscow's Domodedovo airport, where, after landing, the 10 spies were kept away from local and international press. According to a statement from her US lawyer Robert Baum and media reports, Chapman had wanted to move to the UK. The Home Office exercised special powers via the British Home Secretary to revoke Chapman's British citizenship to prevent her return to the UK. This was done under Section 40 of the British Nationality Act 1981, introduced as part of the Nationality, Immigration and Asylum Act 2002 and Immigration, Asylum and Nationality Act 2006. This power had at that point only been used against a dozen people since its introduction. The Home Office issued legal papers revoking her citizenship on the 13th of July 2010. Steps were taken to exclude Chapman, meaning that she could not travel to the UK. After Chapman's departure to Russia, Baum reiterated that his client had wished to stay in the UK. He also said that she was particularly upset by the revocation of her UK citizenship and exclusion from the country. After her arrest by the FBI for her parts in the illegals program, Chapman gained celebrity status. Photos of Chapman taken from her Facebook profile appeared on the web, and several videos of her were uploaded to YouTube. Her affiliation with the Russian Federation led at least one media outlet to refer to her as the Red Under the Bed. Number 9, Samantha Lewthwaite. Samantha Louise Lewthwaite, also known as Sheriffia Lewthwaite or the White Widow, is a British chaotic individual who is one of the Western world's most wanted chaos suspects. Lewthwaite, the widow of the July 7th London anarchist Jermaine Lindsay, is accused of causing the passings of more than 400 people. She is a fugitive from justice in Kenya, where she was wanted on charges of possession of explosives and conspiracy to commit a felony, and is the subject of an Interpol Red Notice requesting her arrest with a view to extradition. Lewthwaite was alleged to be a member of the Somalia-based radical Islamic militant group Al-Shabaab. She was accused of orchestrating grenade attacks at non-Muslim places of worship and is believed to have been behind an attack on those watching football in a bar in Mombasa during Euro 2012. In September 2013, there was speculation over her possible involvement in the Nairobi Westgate shopping mall attack, although other reports cast doubt on this or said her role was exaggerated. She was dubbed the White Widow by the news media, a play on words referencing her race and the passing of her first husband, and the practice of referring to Chechen female self-immolating anarchists as Black Widows. Number 8, Marllory Dadiana Chacon Rossell. The Guatemalan Marllory Chacon, La Reina del Sur, or the Queen of the South, who in 2015 was sentenced in the United States to 12 years in prison for substance trafficking, is already released on bail in South Florida, according to an investigation by the Hispanic network Univision. Marllory Dadiana Chacon Rossell, 47, was released from jail thanks to the fact that she managed to reduce her sentence by collaborating with the United States government. First, she faced 26 years in prison for substance trafficking and money laundering charges, but she managed to get her sentence reduced to 12 years, then got her to leave in 5 and is now free on bail, the network said. Chacon led a substance trafficking organization that moved powder from Guatemala to the United States through business with big cartels in Colombia and Mexico. Her nickname coincides with the title of a novel by Spanish writer Arturo Pérez Reverte and that of a television series performed by the Mexican actor Kate del Castillo. Number 7, Joanna Dennehy. Kevin Lee was a property developer, landlord, and lover of Dennehy. Lucas Slabazewski, a Polish national, met Dennehy through a shared interest in drinks and substances, and John Chapman was a housemate of Dennehy. Slabazewski was terminated at some point between the 19th and 29th of March 2013. Both Lee and Chapman were terminated on the 29th of March. Lee's body was found the next day near Newborough. Dennehy had dressed his body in a black sequined dress before dumping the corpse. The bodies of Slabazewski and Chapman were found on the 3rd of April near Thorney with stab wounds. After the endings, Dennehy was driven by her friend Gary Stretch to Hereford, where she stabbed 2 men, chosen separately and at random, both of whom survived. Both men were dog walkers. She stole the second man's dog. Another man traveling in the car unwillingly was later cleared of criminal involvement in the attacks. Dennehy, born August 1982 in St Albans, Hertfordshire, grew up in a nearby Harpenden and was an absent mother of 2 young children at the time of the executions. She specifically targeted men during her spree, telling her acquaintance Lloyd that she did not wish to end a woman, and especially not a woman with children. Lloyd stated Dennehy had wanted to remove 9 men in total, seeking to be like Bonnie and Clyde. Dennehy stabbed men for the purpose of entertainment, telling Stretch, "I want my fun. I need you to get my fun." She later told a psychiatrist that she had found slaughter to be Moorish, and that after the first termination, she got a taste for it. Number 6. Maria Licciardi. Licciardi was born and raised in the Neapolitan suburb of Chacon di Gliano, a traditional stronghold of Licciardi clan. Her entire family belonged to the Camorra. Her father was a well-known guapo, or local boss. One of her brothers, Gennaro Licciardi, known as the Monkey, was a very powerful guapo, who later became the head of the clan and a founding member of the Chacon di Gliano Alliance, a coalition of powerful Camorra clans which controlled substance trafficking and the extortion rackets in many suburbs of Naples. Gennaro passed away from blood poisoning while in the Voghera prison on August 3, 1994. Licciardi's husband, Antonio Teghemi, was also in the Camorra. Licciardi rose to power and took over as head of the clan after her 2 brothers, Pietro and Vincenzo, and her husband were arrested. She was the first female Camorrista to become the boss of the Licciardi clan and take over as the head of the Chacon di Gliano Alliance. The passing of Gennaro Licciardi caused some disruption in the local underworld, as well as several bloody attempts to seize control, but the clan was kept in stable condition by Maria. She brought together a fragile informal coalition of 20 Camorra clans in order to expand control of the city's most lucrative rackets, from substance and cigarette smuggling to protection and other illegal activities. She also played a key role in expanding the city's substance trade market. Under her leadership, the Chacon di Gliano Alliance became more organized, secretive, sophisticated, and consequently more powerful. Licciardi introduced many revolutionary changes to the clan. Perhaps the most important among them was the involvement in the pimping trade. Prior to this, the Camorra had a code of conduct that forbade them from making any money from pimping. However, under Licciardi, this code was broken. The Camorra would buy the girls from the Albanian mafia for $2,000 in US currency. Many of them came on the promise of legitimate work in order to escape the crushing poverty of their homeland. But once they arrived, they were practically enslaved and forced into the job by the Camorra. They were often put on substances. This helped increase criminal activity as they usually spent a large part of their income purchasing narcotics for consumption. Number 5. Enedina Arellano Felix. Enedina Arellano Felix de Toledo is a Mexican substance lord who, alongside her brothers, founded the Tijuana cartel and played a role as a logistical accountant for the criminal organization. Throughout most of the 1990s, the Tijuana cartel was headed by her 6 brothers, while Enedina advised and helped them in money laundering and financial administration. But after the fall of a financial mastermind in the cartel in the year 2000, Enedina took up the position. She first started working behind the scenes as a money launderer for the Tijuana cartel, but then ended up leading the cartel after the arrest of her brother Eduardo Arellano Felix in 2008. Since most of her brothers are either incarcerated or deceased, Enedina has managed the financial aspect of the organization, overseen alliances, and taken the lead of the Tijuana cartel alongside Luis Fernando before his capture in 2014. Her historical contacts with substance suppliers in Colombia managed to keep the organization afloat. Number 4. Katherine Knight. John Charles Thomas Price was the father of 3 children when Knight began an affair with him. Reputedly a terrific bloke liked by everyone who knew him, his own marriage had ended in 1988. While his 2-year-old daughter had remained with his former wife, the 2 older children lived with him. Price was well aware of Knight's violent reputation as she moved into his house in 1995. His children liked her, he was making a lot of money working in the local mines, and apart from the violent arguments, at first, life was a bunch of roses. In 1998, Knight and Prince fought over his refusal to marry her. In retaliation, she videotaped items he had allegedly stole from work and sent the tape to his boss. Although the items were out-of-date medical kits that he had scavenged from the company Rubbish Tip, Price was fired from the job he had held for 17 years. That same day, he kicked her out and she returned to her own home while news of what she had done spread throughout the town. A few months later, Price restarted the relationship, although he now refused to allow her to move in with him. The fighting became even more frequent, and most of his friends would no longer have anything to do with him while they remained together. In February 2000, a series of assaults on Price culminated with Knight stabbing him in the chest. Finally fed up, he kicked her out of his house. On the 29th of February, he stopped at the Scone Magistrates Court on his way to work and took out a restraining order in an attempt to keep her away from both himself and his children. That afternoon, Prince told his coworkers that if he did not come to work the next day, it would be because Knight had ended him. Despite their pleas that Price should not return home, he stated that he was afraid Knight would hurt his children if he did not. Price arrived home to find that Knight, although not there herself, had sent the children away for a sleepover at a friend's house. He then spent that evening with his neighbors before returning home and going to bed at 11 p.m. Knight later arrived at Price's house while he was sleeping and sat watching television for a few minutes before having a shower. She then woke Price and they had intimate relations, after which he fell asleep. At 6 a.m. the next day, a neighbor became concerned that Price's car was still in the driveway. And when he did not arrive at work, his employer sent a worker to see what was wrong. Both the neighbor and the worker tried knocking on Price's bedroom window to wake him, but they alerted police after noticing blood on the front door. Breaking down the back door, police found Price's body, with Knight comatose from taking a large amount of substances. She had stabbed Pierce with a butcher's knife while he was sleeping. According to the blood evidence, he awoke and tried to turn the light on before attempting to escape while Knight chased him throughout the house. He managed to open the front door and get outside, but he either stumbled back inside or was dragged back into the hallway where he finally passed away after bleeding out. Later, Knight went into Aberdeen and withdrew $1,000 from Price's account at an ATM. Price's autopsy revealed that he had been stabbed at least 37 times, in both the front and back of his body, with many of the wounds extending into vital organs. Number 3. Juana Barraza. Juana Barraza is a Mexican serial ender and former professional wrestler dubbed the Little Old Lady Butcher, sentenced to 759 years in prison for the ending of 16 elderly women. The first slaughter attributed to Mata Vajitas had been dated variously to the late 1990s and to a specific termination on the 17th of November 2003. The authorities and the press have given various estimates as to the total number of her victims, with estimates ranging from 42 to 48 endings. After the arrest of Juana Barraza, the case of the woman was officially closed despite more than 30 unresolved cases. All of Barraza's victims were women aged 60 or over, many of whom lived alone. Barraza bludgeoned or strangled them before robbing them. Bernardo Batiz, the chief prosecutor in Mexico City, initially profiled the ender as having a brilliant mind, being quite clever and careful, and suggested that the ender probably struck after gaining the trust of the intended victim. Investigating officers suspected that the ender posed as a government official, offering victims the chance to sign up for welfare programs. The search for Barraza was complicated by conflicting evidence. At one point, the police hypothesized that 2 enders might actually be involved. An odd coincidence also distracted the investigation. At least 3 of Barraza's victims owned a print of an 18th century painting by French artist Jean-Baptiste Greuze, a boy in a red waistcoat. The authorities believed that Juana Barraza was a psychopath who felt no remorse. Furthermore, Barraza associated her elderly victims with her mother and believed that she was helping society by ending them. Number 2. Claudia Ochoa Felix. Claudia Ochoa Felix was a social media personality. In 2014, a rumor spread on social media that she was a high-ranking leader of the execution squad Los Antrax, a block of enforcers that operate as an armed wing of the Sinaloa cartel. After their leader Jose Gamboa was arrested, Ochoa Felix was rumored to be one of the leaders. She denied the claims and her involvement in organized crime. Ochoa Felix was known on social media for her resemblance to Kim Kardashian and had accounts on various social media sites, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Ochoa Felix's photos revealed her luxurious lifestyle, which showed her with sports cars, planes, yachts, and various weapons. Ochoa Felix was found passed away in her private residence in Chacon on the 14th of September 2019, due to apparent pulmonary aspiration caused by a substance overdose. The previous night she had been seen going home with an unidentified man after attending a party in the city center. The morning after, the unidentified man raised an alarm due to Felix not responding. She was pronounced gone at the scene. Many people began to rumor online that Felix had been assassinated due to her affiliations with the infamous Los Antrax squad and the Sinaloa cartel. Claudia Felix fans assure that she was Drake's crush, who followed each other on social networks and sent messages, they say. When she passed, Drake and Claudia Ochoa Felix were in Twitter trends. Number 1. The queen of crime herself, Bonnie Parker. Bonnie Elizabeth Parker was born in 1910 in Rowena, Texas, the second of 3 children. Her father, Charles Robert Parker, was a bricklayer who passed away when Bonnie was just 4 years old. Her widowed mother, Emma Parker, moved her family back to her parents' home in Cement City, an industrial suburb in West Dallas, where she worked as a seamstress. As an adult, Bonnie wrote poems such as The Trail's End, or more commonly known as The Story of Bonnie and Clyde. In her second year in high school, Parker met Roy Thornton. The couple dropped out of school and married on September 25th, 1926, 6 days before her 16th birthday. Their marriage was marred by his frequent absences and brushes with the law and proved to be short-lived. They never divorced, but their paths never crossed again after January 1929. Parker was still wearing the wedding ring Thornton had given her when she passed. Thornton was in prison when he heard about her passing, commenting, "I'm glad they jumped out like they did. It's much better than being caught." Sentenced to 5 years for robbery in 1933, and after attempting several prison breaks from other facilities, Thornton was ended while trying to escape from the Huntsville State Prison on October 3rd, 1937. After she left Thornton, Parker moved back in with her mother and worked as a waitress in Dallas. One of her regular customers was postal worker Ted Hinton. In 1932, he joined the Dallas County Sheriff's Department and eventually served as a member of the posse that ended Bonnie and Clyde. Parker briefly kept a diary early in 1929 when she was aged 18, writing of her loneliness and impatience with life in Dallas and her love of photography. Thanks for watching. Leave a like and comment if you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time on Crime Time.